Good evening, everybody. It's me, Comic Crack. It's Sunday night. Welcome to another Sunday wrap. On tap tonight. Cheers. So this afternoon we had our Sunday chat. We're back to our Sunday schedule, I guess. We were over on Rasa's channel, so head on over there if you want to see our whole conversation. I tried my best to hang out outside today. It just felt appropriate. I didn't last, I lasted maybe 15 minutes or something. I didn't last too long. Pretty damn windy, still a little chilly out there. So I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks we can be back to doing the shows where I can sit outside and enjoy the sun instead of being stuck in this basement. Lots to go through this week since we didn't do a chat last Sunday. I think our last one was that previous Wednesday. So it's been a good week and a half. I'm now up to 200 books or 200 comics for my 500 comic goal for the year. So I just hit 200 last night. So well on my way, still a ways to go. But like I said, quite a lot to talk about tonight. I'll start off with one that we briefly spoke about. I was only kind of halfway through it, I think, the first time I talked about this one. This is Chartwell Manor, a comics memoir by Glenn Head. This is, well, okay, I'll say it, a masterpiece, truly, from the one and only R. Crumb. This was Fantagraphics from, I think it was 2001 is when this one came out. Glenn Head is somebody that I've been familiar with for quite a long time. He did a bunch of he made a bunch of appearances in some anthologies. I think he had his own anthology. It wasn't Hardwire, was it? No, I think I'm thinking somebody else. But anyway, he's been around for a long time. I've always loved his style. He sort of had this, he sort of addresses it here in this book. He had this kind of little bit exaggerated character. They weren't quite autobiographical. They were taken from life, but they were exaggerated to some degree. And this book kind of just lays out his struggles that he's had throughout his life that kind of stemmed from a lot of different areas, but for sure stemmed from a boarding school that he was at, where him and a bunch of other boys experienced some physical abuse and some sexual abuse as well, too, with the guy who was kind of taking care of him, Sir. They always called him Sir. He throws in... So one of the things that stuck with me by the end of the book here was that it felt very unresolved, which I think is a huge point of it, because he himself, as a human being and also a character in the book, I think felt the issue was unresolved to some degree too. There wasn't kind of this, there wasn't this moment where he got to confront his abuser or go into the court and see him get punished and be there when the jury found him guilty. There wasn't this sort of kind of closure for him. The guy was charged. He did serve time. Then he died. But Glenn and a bunch of the other guys, because later on in his adult life, he ends up kind of talking to a couple of the other guys that were at this school. So it's still something that they're struggling with, which completely makes sense when you're dealing with abuse. But so I guess it's a really tough one for me, because I'm struggling with the book itself, but because I'm struggling with it and the things that I'm thinking about it make me feel like it was a complete fucking success. Because as a reader, you're sort of left with that same feeling that there's something a little unresolved even about the book. It sort of ends abruptly to some degree. So I go back and forth of like, I'm not sure what I think about it, to it's actually a goddamn good book. So, I mean, I think I'm more on that end for sure, that it was enjoyable, as tough as some of the sections were to read. I think I said it last time too. There's an interesting thing that happens with Glenn's artwork in this one, where it is still a little bit of that kind of cartooniness to it. So you have this instinct to not quite take it serious. There's this sort of thing at play there where, is this still an accentuated character? If that's the right term, is this Glenn playing with his character that he's portrayed in comics in the past, still playing through with it here, mixing it with this true life story and these struggles that he has throughout his life. So many good moments in this. I find his relationship with his parents and the way that develops over the book is equally fascinating and goddamn depressing, but told really well. So recommended for sure recommended. As I'm flipping through, if any of this looks appealing to you in any sort of way, I think you'll like it. It's kind of in that kind of underground autobiographical realm of the Justin Greens and the Robert Crumbs. On the back here, we do get a Robert Crumb, a Peter Bagge, Noah Van Sciver, and Justin Green gives him props as well too, which is pretty huge. I just saw today on Twitter, I think, because I follow Glenn on Twitter, he was sharing some photos of Robert Crumb holding up his book and singing its praises to I'm not sure exactly where he was, to a group of people anyway, and just how it's kind of so surreal to him to be part of this kind of second wave, I guess, of underground cartoonists, having kind of a legend like that really highly praising your book. So yeah, it's very cool. I'm very curious to see what he does next. Not necessarily how he follows this up. I don't feel that that's anything that you should even think about as a creator to some degree. I'm just curious about where he decides to go next, what kind of stories he decides to tell next. Very curious. So that's Chartwell Manor from Fantagraphics. As always, surrounded by shit, not knowing where to put stuff. So to go to kind of completely lighter stuff, I'll save. So we're going to talk Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because I read a ton of it and I've got a lot more to read, but we're going to end up there. We'll kind of look at everything else that I read. Some things I won't have too much to say about, these two being a couple of them. So I've often heard good things about Plastic Man, specifically about Kyle Baker's Plastic Man. I sold some books yesterday. No, Friday. Sold some comics on Friday. Went down to cover. I was on the hunt for more Turtles stuff. I kind of was bitten by the bug. Found a couple of things in his back issue bin, Turtle-wise, and then just kind of had a look through, and he had a bunch of these Plastic Man books. Went something like 20-something issues, I think we'd heard this afternoon in the chat. There's a hardcover collection of it as well, too, that's out there, which I may try to hunt for. I don't know. He had about 6 or 8 issues in the back issue bin there, so I decided to pick one up to give it a try. I'm really glad that I did. This is an absolute blast of a comic here, and it all comes down to Kyle Baker himself, his style of art. I'm going to go up a little bit on this camera here, give us a little more breathing room. It all comes down to Kyle Baker himself and how he plays with the character. His style of cartooning is very kind of rubbery and fluid anyway. It's very heavily into animation from my sensibility of it anyway, from my sense of it. And it's fantastic. And it's all because of that it's so much fun. The stories themselves are pretty basic. There's a couple of really good gags in this for sure, but it's the way he plays with this Plastic Man character himself. So they're on the hunt for, what the hell is his name? Eel O'Brien, who, forgive me, but I believe this is Eel O'Brien that turned into Plastic Man. He's now in a spot where he wants to clear his name from being a villain. Nobody knows that he is this Eel O'Brien. So he's now working with the cops, going undercover, I guess, to kind of find out, to clear his name and to find the real criminal behind. I missed the issue 1, so I don't know exactly what happened, and I'm not familiar enough with the character to be able to fill in those kind of gaps. Although, that said, I don't think it's very necessary. So he's paired with an FBI agent who eventually shows up. And as they're working together, some of my favorite pages right here, these are my favorite pages here. They're working together, and she does this scale model to kind of break down the crime scene itself. And of course, every time she turns her back, he's pulling faces, and she turns around and he kind of, changes back. She turns away, makes another face, and is mimicking her and stuff. And it just keeps going for a few more panels. And the poses and the faces get even wilder and crazier as it goes on. And this one is my favorite right here. This very Basil Wolverton looking face there with the teeth jutting out of his head. So it's an absolute blast of an issue. And Kyle really plays with the page layouts as well too. There's one scene where they're trapped in a room and the walls are closing in, and he does a real good job of using the white spaces because he has borderless panels there. He doesn't have everything surrounded with black lines. He can really use that white space effectively until we finally get this image here. He's tangled himself in the gears to stop the room from crushing her, and she's right in the gutters there, which is great. I have a feeling stuff like this might get lost in that hardcover, but who knows? Great book, highly recommended. Hello, Forgerelli. Hardcover Plastic Man is a great package. I recommend highly. Yeah, Rasa found an image of it online during our chat this afternoon and showed it, and it does look really great. Hello, AFPC. Kyle Baker is the best. Love that Plastic Man series. Yeah, it's a strong opener for me for sure. So it's on my radar now. At least I know where to find some issues. Although I may try to see if I can find that hardcover online or something. Yeah, the Jack Cole Plastic Man is something that I absolutely want to see more of. I've seen little bits and pieces, and it is unbelievable. So that's absolutely out there for me to try to get my hands on. Maybe it's a library hunt. So that's that one. And then the other one, again, not a lot to say about it, so I won't even take it out of its protective lining. I don't find many copies of the Gru series from PC. I believe so. Hello, Gore Vidal. How are you? I believe so, Gore. I believe it's the same guy. Yes. This is only the second issue of the PC Gru series that I have. I have issue number 2 and now issue number 7. Really good. Goes without saying. I know that everybody who watches this channel, there's not much need to go into this in any depth. I'm really glad I found it. He had copies of issue number 2 and this one. That was it. I just don't see it. I believe these PC comics were collected in the Marvel. They had like the what the fuck do you call them? Those square bound kind of prestige format or whatever the hell they're called. I believe they were all collected there as well. And I think I'm only missing one of those books. So I may have to pull those out of the bins and give them a reread because this was real fun to revisit again. I haven't read any Gru for a long time. So what else? Let's go with this here. Another one I talked about this afternoon. I showed it off in the stream I think it was last week, that maybe it was that Wednesday night. Anyway, this was part of the kind of cheap books that I got, and I'm happy to report that it was even better than I first imagined it was going to be. And finding the miniseries that follows this is kind of really high on my list at this point, which was also done by Fantico. I can't remember if it was 4 issues. I believe it was. It's the same creative team as well, which is what's most important, because it's the art by Carlos Castro that's just mind-boggling. I'm a big fan of the movie. Night of the Living Dead is a very important movie for me personally, and I also think it's pretty important in like the world of horror and zombie movies specifically. But so this is an amazing little taste. It feels like this takes place even just before the movie, before the announcement comes on the radio about the dead have come back to life and are devouring the living, that classic line or something along those lines. So this is kind of, you get little introductions to people in their houses just living their life moments before they get attacked and turned into zombies. But this art is just outstanding. I still haven't looked him up online to see what other comics he's done, but it is really, really good stuff. It's dark at times where you can't quite see what's going on, but I think that works for this kind of book. Even if it was kind of a mistake. You often hear about artists and comic creators creating these pieces and then figuring out what worked and what didn't when they see the printed version. This may be along those lines. Tagged it, but this is so good. And some of my, I've shown it a couple of times now, so got to show it again. This husband attacking his wife and chewing at her face as he pulls it apart is just grisly. And then heading for the stairs, heading outside, and it kind of just, he moves off of the panels and into the gutters there. Beautiful, beautiful page. That would be a page to own right there, I think. Would be killer. So I'm very, very much looking for the rest of these issues just to see where this goes and how insane the art gets. I imagine it's only going to get crazier with the actual series proper. And it goes right onto the back cover, as we've said before. This is 1991 is when this was. So highly recommended. Keep your eyes out in those cheap bins for the Night of the Living Dead Prelude from Fantico. Well worth your time and money. Well worth your hard-earned 50 cents. We'll save that. We'll save that. We'll save all this turtle stuff for right at the end, which is a fucking lot of it. What do we got here? Okay. Yeah, I agree. It would be fantastic. I've just got to really hit it hard and try to really send out a million emails and really try to hunt people down, because I would love to talk to some of these guys. The Demon Warrior from Eastern Comics. The only issue that I have, not one that I see too often around town. I see a lot of kind of, I see quite a few Eastern comics actually, but they always turn out to be the ones that I already have. This is a solid beginning, but I'm not surprised. This is 1987, Demon Warrior #1. There's your creators there, J. Hack Lee, writer and artist. And it looks a little different than the other Eastern books that I've read so far. It has a little bit of a different style, but it's still really steeped in that manhwa kind of language, I guess. I am struggling. I'll be honest, I am struggling to remember what the hell the story was in this one, but I don't think it, a lot of the times that doesn't really matter too much if we're honest with ourselves here. I'm sure it's some sort of revenge story, but it's beautiful art. The faces are a little bit different than I'm used to with these Eastern books. It's a real shame that this company didn't last much longer. I feel like they had some really solid ideas and some solid books coming out, even the ones they were reprinting, like that baseball one. I think it would have been great to see these run a little longer. But again, I see Eastern and I'm going to pick it up. So I'm on the hunt for the rest of these as well too. And it also feels like a company where there's not a lot of stuff out there. So shouldn't be too hard to kind of get a complete run of everything they did. Anyway, I won't show you too much more of that. You get the sense of it there. The Law from Asylum Graphics. This is the one where we had our creators on the back cover and on the inside, one of them dressed up as the character. This was a pretty good read too, actually. Again, this kind of standard vigilante type of story. Our main character was a lawyer. He got bamboozled. He got bamboozled by this guy who came in to see him to kind of ask for his help in a case where he could get not custody but visitation rights. He felt that his wife was really taking advantage of their divorce, had pressed charges and had a restraining order against him, and was making sure that he never saw his kid again. This guy buys it hook, line, and sinker. He goes to court. Speaking of manhwa, I highly recommend Moms if you haven't read it. Crack, I don't even know it. That's a new one to me. So he goes to court, takes this guy on as a client, goes to court, and he wins. Cut to the newspaper: girl slain by father hospitalized after failed suicide. So it gets kind of dark really fast, literally on a page turn, as he starts puking and gets a call from the wife to kind of, you put the knife in his hand, for Christ's sakes. I hope you're proud. You're supposed to be the law. You're supposed to protect the innocent. No, not feed them to the wolves. There's nothing you can do. It's too late to do anything. So that kind of turns him, and he ends up going to visit. I'm going to do spoilers here because why the hell not? He ends up going to visit his this guy in jail, and because he's his lawyer, he can get in there to see him right away. And this guy's got a grizzled kind of grin on his face. Well, I was wondering when you'd show up, Shyster. That was some performance we put on. I've got to thank you. If it hadn't been for you, I'd never have gotten my hands on that little bitch. My only regret is not being able to see Louisa's face when the police came. You were right. The system works. I even figured this overdose attempt ought to get me temporary insanity. You want to prepare the case? And he says, go to hell. Pulls out a piece and boom, blows his fucking head off. So that kind of creates the turn there for our character, where now that's kind of his moment where he's snapped and he's going to take the law into his own hands. And then it kind of turns into a bit of a standard kind of vigilante type of book. But it was a pretty strong opening. Got pretty dark pretty damn fast. I think there might have only been one more issue of this one from this probably short-lived company. I couldn't find too many titles when I looked on my comic shop. I think they might have only had 2 titles on Asylum, possibly. So yeah, not too bad. Even if it was kind of standard, it's it also felt like it had that. Well, I guess this is probably 89 or early 1990, since they have ads for books coming in 1990 supposedly. So it feels kind of its time for sure. This kind of gritty superhero. A great graphic novel by Yang Shin Ma. Came out a couple years ago through D&Q. Okay, then I do know which one you're talking about. I think Chaos and Comics Chris may have read that and talked about it. I'll have a look through it. I haven't looked on D&Q's website in a long time. Geriatric Gangrene, Jiu-Jitsu, Gerbils. Just as good as I remember. just as stupid. Um, it was really great to read this one again. I don't often buy things to relive my youth, he says, surrounded by comic books. But this one specifically was something that like I said, when I first picked it up and talked about it, this was really a part of my youth. I read this book dozens of times, so it was great to sit and flip through it and read it again. Remember every single part of it as it was coming. So entertaining. Another one I really want to find the rest of the run just to kind of have that, and maybe try to find some Prime Slime Tales again as well too. One of those rare occasions where it's stuff that I got rid of out of the collection that I do actually regret. I wish I wouldn't have got rid of those, just because, especially because they were mine and I bought them. I don't remember if I bought them all new. What are we looking at here? 86. I mean, it's possible. 13 years old. It's possible that I bought these new. My memory isn't that good to remember to that degree, but nice little gag here as he tries to jump from rooftop to rooftop and misses and smashes through the window. So good fun. That's a cheap bin find for sure. Did you say you had this one there, AFPC? Didn't survive a purge. Yeah, that often happens to some of those books. Finally, Bernie Moreau's The Jam, issue number 1 from Slave Labor. Goddamn good. I really like this a lot. I think it's his art style especially is the law. Yeah, his art style especially was something that I really had to grow into. I think finally completing that Mackenzie Queen and really getting into that book really helped. And I guess also just really diving deep into black and white books, period, has really helped, because over these last couple of years, I've really just gone out of my way. This is 1989 to find and read this kind of stuff. This was just a lot of fun. A really, really fun book. Pretty fun character. With some amazing art. Like, this page is just incredible, man. I love the little bit of steam coming out of his mouth there. Really nice touch. Just the line work too on him as a character. Really good. So another one. Again, I'm going to say this probably all night. Really want more of these. I don't see them nearly enough. But I'm pretty sure I have it in the phone on a list. I should make sure after the stream that I do have it front and center. I've started to add stuff to the phone, new editions. I put some stars beside them because that list is pretty huge now. So at least I can kind of scroll past if I'm hitting some of the same spots that I've hit a million times before. At least I can focus on finding the new editions as opposed to spending an hour looking for stuff that I've looked for a million times before. Good shit, man. The Jam. Modeled by Jay. Space Beaver is fantastic. I would agree with that one. Yeah, it is good. I haven't read the whole thing, but a couple of them. Those Crazy Peckers was pretty great too. But yeah, Space Beaver, so good. I think I sent some of those to Dr. Monkey Bot back in the day as well. One that might have been like a Miami Vice type of looking cover. Was there one with Space Beaver where he was standing at a gravestone in the snow with those ridiculous looking shades on there, AFPC? Yes, great cover. I wish the art looked exactly like this inside. It's pretty damn close, but it doesn't quite hit it. This is an odd book. I don't really know what to say about this one. I'm for sure curious to get some more. And this creator, Kevin J. Taylor, this is from 1990. Kevin J. Taylor went on to kind of do some porn comics as well too. I think that was according to both AFPC and Colin when we talked about this the other week there. Pretty good. She's kind of a badass, again, sort of vigilante who has some martial arts training. Yeah, number 8, that was the Space Beaver one. Yeah, that's the one that's really solid in my mind. Just very unusual figures, very unusual looking characters. Something about very mature. Copy that. So very mature. um, something about those faces. There's something a little off-putting about it. But yeah, you get some naughty action there. So, I mean, I read it. I may it may end up in a stack if I find it out there and then get put back in the bin once I find some other stuff. But if I see number one, I'm sure I'd pick it up just to kind of have the set, because I think there was only 2 of these. Yeah, stuff like that. Yes, it is very true. Looks like a precursor to Dave Sims' Glamour Puss without the martial arts training. Yeah, that's another one. I only have 1 issue of that, but Blood Rain, Tim Tyler. This is fucking amazing. It's Tim Tyler, so of course it is. 1991. I tell you, man, one of the things that works so well in this is this use of red in this black and white book, because they don't overdo it. And I mean, just look at this cityscape here. Really incredible. And talk about another guy that has kind of sort of wonky looking character design. Look at this dude here. I really love this. You get some TNA as well, which never hurts. I tagged that one as well too. So it was just fun. It was exactly what you would expect from a Tim Tyler. But this is the stuff here. There would be a tendency to just go overboard with that red, I think, to really make that stand out and almost blood drench the page. But I like the way it's used kind of in this sparse manner. I don't know how many issues this one went. This is number 1, so it feels like maybe the book that as it kind of goes further and more mayhem gets sprayed on the page. I'm sure it gets redder and redder. There was not a model by day TV pilot. You got to be kidding me there, AFPC. There you go. Look at that there. Yeah, no surprises here at all. Nice and violent 1991 era black and white books. Insane looking. That's Blood Rain. I won't open this one up. This was dull as fuck. I stopped reading it. It was just boring. The art was pretty damn good. So it turns out Brett Butt is his real name, and it is a Canadian from Saskatchewan who went on to do to be like a comedian and do the kind of famous Canadian show. At least it was famous around these parts. Corner Gas. I know some people that worked on it that lived in Saskatchewan that were working on that show. That was his baby. So for you got to be fucking kidding me. I'll absolutely check out the Model by Day TV pilot then. He and his buddy tried their hand at some publishing. They only did these 2 issues for this Wind Wolf, and it didn't work out, probably because their stories were shit. Even by black and white books, standards. I'm really glad I got it. I will absolutely pick up issue 1 if I find it. There's no doubt in my mind, just because it's that Canadian content, but it was too good to not share with you. Werewolf at Large. Actually, let's go here. It's Science. Pretty dull. Not even really that funny. Slave Labor, I feel, is a company that's always worth checking out, but this one didn't really do much for me. I mean, I read it, so it wasn't horrible, but I'm not in any rush to find some more. Icon Devil, I so wanted to love this book, and I just didn't. Another one where kind of halfway through the 2nd issue, I just stopped reading. Actually, you know what? That's a lie. I think I only read the 1st issue and I started reading the 2nd one, and I maybe made it a page into it. It starts off so strong in this first issue, but declines at a pace like I've never seen before in a comic. It just gets so fucking talky and boring. Oh, wrong one, wrong issue. I meant to pull out this other issue. So disappointed because I love these covers. I love the design. I love the logo. I love that they put these posters inside. I still want to find a second issue of this one so I can pull this poster out of one of them. Some pretty amazing world building off the top as this kind of tower of the city, and there's prostitution involved here. It just starts out so fucking good. Action right out of the gate. Some really interesting characters. A little bit of violence, like on page 2, and it just, you literally turn a page and then it's just fucking dull. And there's this dialogue and this world building and character building that is just so goddamn wordy. It's another one of those cases of like show don't tell, but to such a degree that I don't give a single shit what any of these characters are talking about. So I really lost interest rapidly, and that's something that's pretty rare with these books for me. I really feel like I give them more than a fair shake. And those of you who have been watching the channel for a long time know that to be the case. I really do give these a good chance. I was just really disappointed. I so wanted to love this book. So I've also got one issue. This is volume 2 of Icon Devil. There's a first volume as well, or maybe it's Devil Icon. I don't know. No, it's got to be Icon Devil, isn't it? Anyway, there's a first volume that's also 2 issues as well. I've only got one of those. Again, if I saw the other one, I would get it just to complete the 2 sets. But I have no intention of reading that other volume whatsoever. So really, real bummer. So pass on it if you see it in the cheap bins. Don't bother. I won't talk too much about this one. This is King Kong. I actually had a lot more issues than I remembered having. I thought I only had a couple. Hello, Cthulhu Hand Luke. How are you? Yeah, the art is good for sure, man. It absolutely is. So I've actually got a few of these issues. So it was a 6-issue miniseries. I've got 2, 3, 4, and 5, I think. Yeah, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I'll just show you the covers. Pretty standard movie adaptation here. The art is the selling point on this series, though. It's really amazing. And these Mark Schultz, right? Is that his first name? Mark? These Schultz covers are to die for. But there you go. So I've only got those 4 issues. They're a pretty quick read. You get a lot of gigantic pages, which you should. It's a King Kong and giant dinosaur book, for God's sakes. You don't want to be telling it in these 100 small panels, Tom Scioli style. You want to kind of get the fucking action there. So beautiful looking stuff. He draws very masculine looking women. But really, really nice. So 2 more issues of this one and I'll have the whole thing. Even number 1 being as pricey as it is, I may have to just bite the bullet, sell some books, and just buy that first issue. They absolutely are. Hello, Daryl, by the way. Yes, I agree with you. They really stand out. And I like that they've done some different ones for each of them. This is my favorite. There you go. So yeah, there's the different styles right there for each of the books. Good stuff. If you can find it, grab it. Werewolf at Large. It was good. It's Eternity. It's a werewolf book. I don't have much else to say about it. Yeah, it was worth it. Again, if you see it in the cheap bins, don't hesitate. But I say that about, I think, all the Eternity stuff. I think all the Eternity stuff is worth picking up. So let's get to the meat of the matter. Oh, one last one that I forgot to talk about. I finally found the issue of the Terminator that Guy Davis did with Alan Grant. Just a one shot, very unsatisfying story. Even Guy's art in this one isn't up to snuff. The women look muscular more than masculine. Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Hello, Eliza. Sucker for werewolf comics. You and me both. Reminds me in places of Ditko's Conga. Yes, I know it. I've flipped through the hardcover book a few times. It was in one of the shops a couple of years ago, and I remember flipping through it a few times. Another one, because I'm a huge fan, it's a Jeff Darrow cover. Worth it for the cover alone. It's Guy Davis art inside. He's doing it all except for the coloring. Just not up to kind of snuff for a Guy Davis book. It was a surprise to me. It's taken me a long time to find this. Thankfully, I finally grabbed myself a copy. Anything with his name on it, I absolutely want to at least give a try to. I'm also not the biggest Terminator fan. I got nothing against it. It's just I'm not a huge fan of it. So maybe that's also something that was lost on me too. So your mileage may vary depending on how much of a fan of this series you are. So let's get into this. Turtles. But we'll get there by way of Noodles, the sketchbook from Tundra of Michael Zulli's stuff. So this is volume 3 of the sketchbook series. I think there was 11 of them. I don't think I've ever seen any of these around. There's a Rick McCullum one that's been on my wish list on my comic shop for the longest time, and I think it's only appeared once at my comic shop, and it was jumped on so goddamn quick I didn't even have a chance to respond, to even think about getting it. This is gorgeous. Michael Zulli is fucking unbelievable. Simonson's RoboCop versus Terminator was fun. Okay, cool. If I see that cheap man, I'll give it a shot. Zulli is a beast. An unreal artist. This is such a great idea, first of all, from Tundra to do this. If I was ever to find one besides the Rick McCullum, I'm really glad that I found this one, because this would be the other one that there's a couple of creators in the series that I'm not really familiar with. It's still something I'd like to see all of it, though. It's also nice that he gives a little commentary on the pages as well, too. I'll try my best not to flip through every single page here, even though I really, really want to. Yes, Dark Horse for sure. That makes sense. I imagine they had the license for RoboCop and Terminator for a long goddamn time there, AFPC. Beautiful stuff. You get all varying degrees. He breaks it up into these chapters. So there's wildlife, there's creatures, demons and devils, and, you know, all sorts of monsters. There we go. The one that's really great. Oh yeah, what was this one? Yeah, inspired in part by Jeff Jones, Belling the Slayer. So there's a couple of pieces in here that look like they're influenced by Jones. So this lovely critter showed up in, of all places, a backup story I did for Mirage Studios a while back. I further explored its character in a portfolio for Fly in My Eye. Not content to leave well enough alone, I brought it back for a trilogy in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So his infamous TMNT run there, which I showed in the stream this afternoon as well. So you get some kind of sketches and some preliminary drawings, and then in this case you get the final piece as well too, which I think is really great. And this was one of the standout images. I mean, those eyes are just goddamn piercing into your soul there. But one of the beautiful things is this use of the white space and just kind of coming in at various points there to create those textures of the hair, I think is just outstanding. But that's a beautiful, beautiful piece right there. And then one of the other, and we get some Swamp Thing as well too, side by side with a Bissett version of Swamp Thing. The Charles Vess, yes, the Charles Vess one is another one I'd really like to have as well. Do you think TMNT would have gone the way of many of these books if Laird Eastman had not decided to commercialize the creations into films, cartoons, toys? Yeah, I mean, absolutely, Gore. I think that that's a pretty important part of the puzzle for them. It also would have went away if they wouldn't have had the foresight to retain control of the characters and keep their hands on it and not just sell them hook, line, and sinker to some company that would have just absolutely shit the bed. I think that them staying at the helm was very important. But I think all of that other merchandising and marketing is crucial, you know, if you're going to have kind of the longevity. I think the thing that they had, of course, first and foremost was they had a goddamn good book. They had goddamn good characters and good stories and good storytelling. And then everything else just came, you know, it's like it's that crapshoot of you never know what's going to resonate. But when it does, goddamn it, you better jump on it. What else did I miss here? Damn, that's awesome. Yeah, it's beautiful. It really is beautiful work. Zuli's sketches are gorgeous, but gotta say it pales in comparison to Daddy Liefeld's sketches for Cable, Strife, and the Mutant Liberation Front. I'll take your word on that one there, AFPC. I have not seen those. I have the Vest sketchbook from this series. Had no idea there were more. Yeah, there's a bunch of them. Like I said, I'm pretty sure there was 11. If you go on to mycomicshop.com, they have them all listed there. So we get some TMNT workout pieces where he's still figuring out poses and some character designs and things. Beautiful work there. Just incredible stuff. And then we get some more creatures. Anyway, so amazing book. Like I said, I never see these sketchbooks around. I really want more of them. Eventually I'll get there. I think it's also one of those things too, when I see Tundra, no matter what it is, I like to pick it up because you just don't see a lot of Tundra around these parts. So yeah, there you go. So that leads us nicely into my dive into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And holy shit, I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. I'll show you at the end the kind of extra books that I picked up. I agree. The Mirage books are excellent. Whoop. And not just parodies, satires, or derivative. I bought them at the time while reading Daredevil and Cerebus. TMNT wasn't as polished as those books, but it was exciting for me. Absolutely. None of that matters, though. If Eastman and Laird hadn't sought out and secured licensing for their creations, TMNT would have remained a moderately successful comic book at best. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I found what is this, fourth printing of issue number 1. It's beat to hell, so we're gonna look through it. So it's not like I don't like the Turtles. It's not like I don't have a bit of history with them. I watched the cartoon. I had that issue number 8 that we showed before. This one I do like to show off. It's all split up here, split at the bottom too, but I just, it's fine because I'm reading them anyway. So you can see the wear and tear on this book. It's been well loved. If anything, that makes it more incredible for me. One of the highlights right off the bat for this one is a little inside piece from Eastman and Laird themselves. The one of the amazing things about this is, let's see, yada yada. The first printing of issue number 1 was 3,000. The second printing was 6,000. The third printing, they did 35,000. And this one, they're looking to do, I think, 60,000 of this book is the numbers that they're floating around here. That's, I think, something that, especially looking back and not really being that involved in it at the time, I think that's the thing that's also really mind-blowing, how quickly this book just skyrocketed them into this kind of fame and fortune, and how quickly everything happened. I ended up watching the it's not called Turtle Soup. What the hell is that documentary called? Anyway, I've got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles documentary. I bought it years ago when the kayfabe guys were raving about it and just how good of a documentary it is. So I watched it again the other night, And it is just kind of, it seems like this small period, which goes back to what you guys were saying in the comments as well too, about making sure that they jump on shit right away, which it seems like they immediately did with the licensing, right into the cartoon, right into these toy lines, right into just the Mirage Studios, getting more people involved, putting out more books, putting the characters in the hands of other artists when it comes to like Turtle Soup. But I mean, the thing that amazed me the most about this book is just how good the book is. It's just a really good book. I feel like in these past few years, my deep dive into kind of 80s black and white books and into the 90s and stuff too, I almost feel like I'm in a similar mindset where I have this to compare to a lot of these black and white books that were around at the same time or a little bit afterwards even. But one of the standouts is that it's clear that they're drawing from a lot of influences. There's Jack Kirby all over some of these pages. But there's just goddamn good storytelling. There's just really good layouts. There's these fantastic 2-page spreads. It still has this grittiness of line that a lot of the other black and white books had, but it just kind of one-ups them. They're thicker books, so the page count is a lot more. You get these just, I mean, badass poses of characters in these fight scenes and stuff, right? So it's just a goddamn good book. It's also one of the things they were talking about in an interview about how people said, why would you kill off Shredder in the first book? And like, because we never thought that we would do a second book. There was never a plan for this to kind of go further. It was always just going to be one. We never thought that this would take off to the degree that it would. We were doing it because we loved the idea, and we wanted to explore it. I love kind of getting the history of how they became the mutants that they are and how much it was tied into Daredevil. And they've said themselves how much Frank Miller was an influence to them. I mean, look at this page here. It's so goddamn great. I do see you guys commenting. I'll get to them in 1 second. So solid story. It was so much fun reading this and just thinking, looking back in time and considering how popular these characters still are today. And again, that's absolutely thanks to a boatload of goddamn toys, a boatload of movies at this point, the cartoons and the continuing comic book series and et cetera, et cetera. They've done so well for themselves. And I think that's also being such fans of Jack Kirby and seeing what happened to him and some of those other comic creators at the time, I think was something that really helped them focus on, we need to retain the rights to these characters, no matter who comes knocking and what kind of dollar figure they have for us. We need to always be in control of these characters across all the mediums, you know. Incredibly smart, very smart, even if Kevin wasn't the smartest with his money when it came to Tundra, the last page here. The other bonus of getting this 4th printing is that there are some this back matter here. So they look at the very first Eastman drawn Turtle, and then Peter's version after that, and then the one that they worked on together, where they kind of, instead of one, how about we make it a team of 4? So you get that, you get some Splinter, you get a little bit talk about Splinter, you get some Shredder, including one of his first designs, which they moved away from pretty quickly, to kind of what he is now. They thought it looked a little too superhero-ish, I think is what they were saying in here. And then some more stuff here. So I'm not sure how easy some of these other printings are to find. I would suggest this one. I mean, you know, of course, everybody would love a first printing, myself included. But honestly, if you see one like this, just grab it. This is a good one to pick up, I think. All right, before I go on to more, we won't look at all of these. I just wanted to highlight a couple of them. Just want to back up here and look at the comments that I missed. Still can't believe the deal you got for those books. I'm glad you got them and not a speculator. Yeah, absolutely. I kind of can't believe the deal I got either. When I went back to see him on Saturday to kind of dig through his bins with this newfound money from the books that I sold, I picked out a bunch and he gave me a deal on top of that already. I think he knocked $15 off of my final price on them, which was really nice of him. So I got a bunch of good ones. Listened to an interview with Eastman and Dave Sim where they were talking about Wally Wood. Eastman said that when Wood was asked about his influence on other creators, he responded that in retrospect, he would have cut off his drawing hand. It's my understanding that Wood took his life. Is that correct? I believe that is true. He was a pretty hardcore alcoholic from what I understand, especially at the end of his life. I just saw a YouTube video channel called Most Expensivist, where the guy that used to run Valiant a few years ago had the TMNT #1 prototype. Really, hey? Miller, Corbin, Star Wars, Time Bandits, and even possibly Zap Comics are there in those early TMNT. Yeah, for sure. Beat to Hell reader copies are the best. Yes, absolutely. They have palpable history, defaced copies especially. I love, honestly, I love it when you see a kid that's written his name on the front cover of a book. I love that so much. It's also kind of partially depressing that, goddamn, I should find this kid to give him back his comic, you know? You have an uncanny number 138 in which the previous owner meticulously colored Storm's hair green in every panel. That's amazing. That's kind of amazing. I did not read Last Ronin. That's the thing. Like, I've never followed any of the new stuff. This makes me want to dig more, but honestly, I'm so steeped in this world right now. I want to explore more of this early stuff first. The only issue that I potentially see with the newer stuff is I'm not as crazy about the art. It's not that it's bad by any stretch. I still think it's good, but I really like this early era stuff. I really like the kind of rough edges on this because that's the other thing that you do end up seeing, or that I'm seeing so far, is even in these first few years. I was watching the kayfabe video today where they were looking at issue 5, I think it is. Even in those kind of few issues, that art has really tightened up even more in issue number 5, and it's still really good, but I really, really like this stuff a lot, you know? So I'm sure I'll get there. Haven't read it, but keep hearing gushing praise. Yeah, same as well. I enjoyed Last Ronin Cthulhu Hand Luke. It was good, but not tragic as I hoped. I mean, I'm sure that I'll get there and try it out. But for now, I want to keep digging into this. So one of the other ones that I managed to get my hands on as I try to get this back in there. This is another strong book to try to find. This is the movie adaptation done by Eastman and Laird as well from Mirage. I haven't seen the movie in a lifetime. From my memory, it seems to be pretty much the same, but you do again get this kind of gritty look to it, you know, like the OG TMNT creators. And one of the things that's amazing to me, I was showing this to Rasa too, I just can't believe they ever thought these tails, quote unquote, were something that worked with the design. I know that at one point they did get rid of them. That looks just like a dick. It's turtle dick is what it is. It's just turtle dick for days, especially when you see these huge panels like this, right? So I understand that you want it for the design, but come on. Come on, people. So what else was there in this one? I thought there was something else in this one I wanted to focus on. Just again, these double page spreads, these single pages are just really nice, just in kind of their character design and their movement and things are really, really accomplished. So this was a lot of fun to read as well, even though there was a bunch of different hands in it. So at the same time that the main title was going on, the early days of it anyway, this Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was also going. They never. Yeah, right. Bullshit. So I got a few of these as well. So 2, 3, 4, and I think this is number 7. I believe this was the last one. This was the most disappointing of the bunch. I really didn't think this was a good book at all. Even the writing itself was kind of lackluster on this one. But I do understand that when they talk about why this one was so late in this interior editorial there, it got literally lost in a pile of work that they had to do for Mirage and for I think he was doing some merchandising drawings. I think they were, I don't know if they were working on the cartoon as well or kind of working out that deal. I don't remember the timeline, but he said we just can't actually keep up with this. So this is 1989 is when this comes out. He just can't, they just couldn't keep up with the pace of everything else that was going on. So that probably speaks more to it. Bissett on the inside here as well, to doing this front kind of intro to the book. This number 2 was great. These first 3 issues were really, really good. This one was a lot of fun. This was sort of like the superhero character in this one that they help out during the issue as he's staking it. So, sorry, what I should do is give the actual credits here. Let's get to the credits page. So it's Eastman and Laird story plot, Jim Lawson, and then Brown on inks. So it was pretty much their baby. They were sort of given the idea was that they would be given the reins to do this secondary title. And the strongest one for my money has been issue number 4, which I don't know, is this the first appearance of the Rat King? I imagine it is, but the Rat King is the main protagonist in this one. And I love it. And again, there's some Kirby. There's some Kirby there, which is beautiful stuff. Look at this page, man. Eye monster. Even the lettering is really great. Really nice stuff. So Tales of, and one that I had kind of high hopes for. This first issue of Turtle Soup was great. So this was them giving over the characters to a bunch of different creators and letting them do their own stories, let them do short stories and kind of take the characters any way they want. I think we looked at this one already. Loved this issue. I kind of had high hopes. There was the second volume, I guess, that only went 4 issues, and it's from late 91 into early 1992, February 1992 for the last issue. This was just kind of disappointing. I felt like there was a couple of good artists attached to it, but overall I felt the stories were just not all that engaging, because I do love the idea of different creators getting their hands on the characters. And here's one that we'll just kind of take a quick look at. This is McCullum and Anderson, with Mary Woodring actually on coloring. Mary does some coloring in a couple of the stories in this one. I don't know if she also works on some of the other issues. I know that in issue 1 and 2 as well, there's some more McCullum stuff, but I have yet to find those 2 issues. This is surprisingly hard to get. So it really is McCullum, especially when you look at these pages. He's got a real style about him for sure. But then it's mixed with some of these other stories that just they just didn't do much for me. I feel like there was another good story in here though. Yeah. Oh yeah. Here, this one, I think. I just kind of like the look of this one as Raphael is off into into having one of his moods where he's off into the woods and kind of brooding. And the brothers end up, these two of them end up chatting. He's just talking about the future and what it would be like if Splinter had died and how they'd be left alone. And so it was a nice little story. But I like the style of the art in this one. So So far out of these two, I can't really recommend those as much. I'd say if you can find them cheap, go for it. But otherwise, I wouldn't go on the hunt. The only one I would try to hunt down is this one, this issue number 1 from, like, I guess what's the first volume. It was just a 1 issue volume though. So yeah. And then finally, the Donatello and Leonardo issues. I thought I had another one, but I don't. I thought I had is it Michelangelo, the one that takes place at Christmas time, I think. I thought I had that one, but it must have made a purge. But yeah, these are solid as well too. So like I said, loving the Turtles reading so far. Let's see what I missed, and then we'll look at what's coming up for Turtles this week. Let's see, what did I miss? I've been reading TMNT current issues, and it reads more like young adult fiction. I'm enjoying it, but they aren't as interesting as those issues from the early years. Understood. It's relieving to hear from those who actually read comics and are not too bothered by condition, opposed to those who encase them in plastic. Absolutely. We talked about that a bit this afternoon too. Laird said that at conventions, fans asked them about the tails. They never thought it would appear to be a penis. We looked at that one. Love this adaptation. Jim Lawson, yes. As well as the adaptation of Secret of the Ooze, of which there were actually 2 editions. One colored by Richmond Lewis. Okay, good to know. Laird and Eastman have just retained my attorneys. As long as they're legible and aren't missing pages, I love all my children. I agree, and that's the biggest thing for me. Even if they're beat up, as long as all the pages there, I'm not too worried about it. I assume you're talking the lawyers. After I watched your video, I ordered a copy of Turtle Soup. I enjoyed it for at least a week. I've been reading those old books, Usagi, and as of Saturday, Frank Miller's Ronin. Oh, nice. Yeah, Ronin is a book I should revisit. An actual Rat King is a terrifying sight joined at the tails. Yeah, in the Halo Jones series, there's a Rat King in there, and it's actually, I think was it 4 or 5 of them joined by the tails, I think, in that story. Rat Czar, so someone in charge of kind of cleaning up the rat problem in New York. Is that what that means? We have, because here we have our mosquito czar. There's someone new every few years that's kind of the one in charge of trying to take down the population of mosquitoes in the city. How was it that Rob Liefeld never drew the Turtles, and then AFPC is saying that he did? Mikey's solo takes place at Christmas. Yeah, okay, fantastic issue. Yeah, and that was another one that I had when I was a kid too, of the couple of issues that I had. At my shop, I call TMT the Wordles. I don't enjoy the films except the scenes with Megan Fox. Oh, right. Okay, so finally for tonight, we've gone on super long. So when I went back on the Saturday, I picked up a few other issues. So this was book number 2. This is, I think, the 3rd printing that has the Corbin cover. In the chat this afternoon on Kayfabe that I was watching, Eastman has the original piece, the original painting of this Corbin hanging on his wall, which is pretty fucking incredible. So I picked up issue number 2, number 3, again, like a 3rd or 4th printing or something. Issue 5. And then issue jumped all the way to issue 14. Book 20. What is this? 38 and 39. And then this Grunts issue number 1. I think there was only one of them. I'm looking forward to digging into this one. I don't know anything about this. He had a few copies of this in the bins there. So don't remember if I told you guys this last time, but this guy, Wayne, had come across a stack of books from an old shop, and it was filled with Turtles stuff. So that's kind of why he has all these all of a sudden. He's on his way to Calgary, actually. There's a comic convention there. And when I went to see him, he was kind of organizing and packing things up for Calgary. So I have a feeling if he brings the Turtles there, I suspect they may all be gone. So I'm glad I had a chance to dive into those bins one last time. So that's what's on the list for this week. I'll probably just read them, even though I don't have all of them. I'm just going to read them anyway because I'm in that mindset. Call me a Turtles fan. It's all over from this point. There's nowhere to go. Fellas, thanks very much, everybody. It was good to see you all. You two have that Corbin. It is a great Corbin cover. Absolutely. Corbin for life. Yes, they will be gone. Yeah, I think they'll all be gone. Especially with the prices he had on them. He did have some. I will revisit Ronan Gore for sure. He did have some that were pretty expensive. He had some in the $150 range of earlier printings of some of the earlier issues. So that's pretty great. And I think then he had the first appearance of Casey Jones as well. I think he only had a couple of copies of that one though. So yeah, thanks very much, guys. We'll see you next week. We'll be on my channel for our Sunday chat, and then I'll be back Sunday night as usual. Take it easy.